It's 9 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to a special edition of The World with me, Gillian Joseph. Speaking to Sky News, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has for the first time suggested that he's prepared to give up parts of Ukraine to Russia, at least temporarily. The Ukrainian president says such a concession could form part of a ceasefire deal under which, in exchange, his country would join NATO. It's one of the avenues that Donald Trump is said to be considering in his plans to end the war. This is President Zelenskyy's first interview with the UK media since the US election. He sat down with our chief correspondent, Stuart Ramsay.
Thank you for speaking to Sky News. I've been here for the past 3 weeks or so. I've covered this war from the start. In 2014 I was here. And I have to be honest, it strikes me that we're at a very critical time on the battlefield. Your troops say there aren't enough soldiers. Morale at the front is low. Mr. President, are you at risk of losing this war?
First of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that you are here, for us, it's very important not to lose the focus on Ukraine from media. So it's important to be very understandable what's going on in Ukraine abroad, to be understandable in UK because you are, and the United States because the most important are our partners, of course, including EU partners. So first of all, I think you understand our war because you said that you are from the very beginning, from 2014. Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's difficult to discuss the level of moral in Ukraine of our soldiers. It depends on a lot of different issues. Mm-hmm. I think we are, yeah, of course, long war. Of course, it's understandable. Some people are tired. Some people hate Russians, and they will be to the end of this war. It's very understandable because some fathers, some mothers, they just lost their families, destroyed houses and children. Mm-hmm. And it's understandable. But you said about it, that am I afraid that we can lose the war? So from the very beginning of this war, let's be very honest, from the very beginning of the second part, full-scale war, yes, we're speaking about what was almost 3 years ago, everybody was sure in the world that we will lose. We have to be very honest when we speak with the people, because we didn't have any huge support, real support. Mm. We've been not weaponized, yes, if it's the right word, weaponized, with weaponry, yes, like Russians. We didn't have so many people, we didn't have such big army, and but we had our attitude to ourselves, first of all. Mm-hmm. And that I always shared with everybody that the most important our weapon, it's our people. And to lose our people, it doesn't matter what weapon we will have, what kind of technologies and etc. It's nothing. Mm-hmm. Yes, really, it's nothing if you compare with our people. That's why we can't lose our people. And that's why if I'm afraid to lose our people, because the people are the most important, because everything is this war for independence of the people, not of the land, of the people, because people, it's really a nation. A nation has land and etc. and etc. The land is very important. It's a part of your, of identity. But the people are the most important. I'm afraid to lose. Yes, if we will be alone, we will lose. It's understandable. We will lose, but it doesn't mean that we will not. That we will lose our faith, yes, in Ukraine, and it doesn't mean that we will lose everything. Yes, we can lose the battle, we can lose big battle, we can lose like it was at the very beginning of the war, but not to lose ourselves and Ukraine, to lose some territories, yes, like it was at the very beginning, but then to deoccupy them. Yeah. And for today is, of course, dangerous moment because we could organize unity in Europe and the United States, be together around us, and it was after full-scale invasion of Russia, and now a lot of disappointments in the world and in Europe, a lot of different things which can divide for example, which can divide. I don't want just to answer on one question and to answer on many questions in one answer. So you can stop me in any time. So am I afraid? I'm afraid to lose the unity in the world. If we will lose this, I'm afraid we can lose everything.
Yes.
This is the most dangerous thing.
And do you believe that we're reaching that point, that you are losing unity with the world?
I'm not sure that we are very close to this, really. Mm-hmm. I think that more dangerous thing than just words of Putin, for example, words which he uses to escalate everything, that even these words, even after the full-scale invasion, after these years, even after all these things, when Ukraine showed that it can stay and it can fight against all his imperial narratives, even after that, sometimes when he speaks about something, some leaders in the world are afraid. Mm. When they're afraid, they begin to communicate with their societies. When they begin to communicate with their societies, they divide their societies. Then they communicate with other leaders and divide the unity in Europe. And of course, Putin understands and feels it like an animal, but he's an animal, real animal, without any, those human values which we share. So, I mean, he just feels it like a blood. So he feels that they're not strong. He feels that he can increase a little bit with attacking missiles, new kind missiles, and to see the reaction.
Yeah, and lowering the use of nuclear
weapons. Yes, of course, he will say about nuclear. From the very beginning of the war, he will say about nuclear each time, of course, because he has to find new steps of his communication. Mm-hmm. For him, it's very important. It's difficult in English to answer on this question.
Tell me, is it unhelpful then when people like the German Chancellor ring President Putin for a chat?
I had just conversation with Chancellor 1 hour ago by phone. Yes, of course we need to meet, and we will have meeting. I can't share the date, but they helped a lot after the United States, the biggest support, including military support, Chancellor gave. Yeah. It means that people of Germany, they gave, of course. So we are very thankful to that. I said to him, yes, it was not a surprise for me. Yes, he communicated that he wants to speak, to understand what Putin's thinking about, and etc. But I said to him that I'm not supporting this idea because he will open this. I mean this new page. How to say it? No, скриньку Pandora. Pandora's box. Yes, Pandora's box. He will open Pandora's box because there are some leaders, they really want to be leaders in this case. Yeah. They still want to be not the leaders of their country. They still want to be political leaders. Mm-hmm. When they are on the first page of newspapers, mm-hmm. and it says that everybody speak about them, that they can communicate with Putin and etc. But it's not about it. I mean, that's people and leaders have at least understand. Mm-hmm. Putin, he thinks that we are the part of Russia. Mm-hmm. Nobody, even during this war, could change his opinion and his mind. Mm-hmm. That's why he thinks that this is the part of his home, that these people are wrong, these really Russian people. Mm-hmm. He thinks about it. That's why his attitude to us like an enemy. That's why he thinks that this is a part of Russia, and he wants to destroy everything Ukraine, which in Ukraine connects with Ukraine and Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. That's why he will go to the end with this idea, horrible idea. Just Hitler's idea. It's not about, it sounds very loud that he's Hitler. No, he is real. He has the same, that only one nation, mm-hmm. one nation world. Mm-hmm. The priority of one nation. This is the same method, and he uses the same steps. the same narratives and the same information or disinformation in this case. That's why don't open this box of Pandora's box. You don't open it, because if you open, other leaders will talk with him just to be on the paper, just to be, in newspapers, to show that we can manage it with Putin. No, you can't manage with the killer if you are, if you are weak. So you can't do it. For him, you are nothing. He respects only the power. And you have to be very strong. And Ukraine has to be very strong in any future kind of negotiations. When we speak, a lot of journalists and a lot of political leaders, they speak. So what kind of negotiations can be? Not what circumstances. First of all, circumstances in which Ukraine is strong. And after that, it doesn't matter what city, what country, what we will speak about, with whom of leaders, and etc. We have to be at the same level. It's minimum, really. We have to be stronger than him, but we have to be very strong, if even at the same level, with unity of the parties. And they have to talk with us one-voice policy, not other way, one-voice policy. If we speak with Putin, so with a plan, not to give him chance to give us ultimatum. He can't give us ultimatum, because he's a killer and he's a terrorist and he's alone, really alone, to my mind. That's why I said I have to answer in Ukrainian. It will be shorter.
Right, no, but you're doing very excellent. Tell me, what do you think about Donald Trump? He's obviously going to be the next president. Can you do business with him, do you think? Are you talking?
We have to work with the new president, and we have to work with America, first of all, with the United States, the biggest donator, the biggest supporter. Yeah, so for us it's very important. Of course, for us it's very important bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats. We don't want to lose Democrats or Republicans. We have a lot of voices from both parties which are on our side, and I'm thankful to them very much. And of course, we will work with Trump. I want to work with him directly, because there are different voices from people around him, and that's why we need not to give anybody around, to destroy our communication. It will be not helpful, and will be destructive, and we have to try to find the new model, maybe some model. I want to share with him ideas, and I want to hear from him, his ideas.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, we've spoken with him about, basically in September when I was in New York, we had conversation. It was very warm, good, constructive, but it was mostly basically not with the very, small details, but with Putin, you can't be, without details. It's important, but it was very good meeting, and it was important first step. Now we have to prepare some meetings. I don't know how many we will have, but until we will have the real plan where Ukraine is strong.
So he's appointed General Kellogg as the new special envoy for the area. Do you know him?
I know him, but I think that we didn't have some deep dialogues in the past. My team had connections, and chief of my staff, he knows also him, because as I said, a lot of people who have been on both, branches. It's but he. Yeah, on different branches, and in both parties they've been with us. So my chief of staff will go with the team. Some team will go to the United States in the closest days, and they will have some meeting there, including special envoy.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's
no detailed plans yet, but is there a basic plan of what you think, President Trump is thinking?
We don't know the details from our plan or future plan of Donald Trump. I'm on President Trump. I said to him some things which I think we have to understand, that who is Putin? the second that he really wants what he wants. And they saw that we have to be very strong and what we need to be strong. Then, of course, we have our peace plan. And it was based on peace formula and a lot of things. It's been done, by the way, 100%. All the meetings with dozens of countries, we finished in November. As I said, that the plan will be ready. So the plan is ready. That's very important.
How's it been received? There's not much.
No, it was before our last meeting. Sorry, it was. We finished with the plan after his meeting with him, but how he received, I think he's thinking about a lot of things. Our team shared some things with his team. I think he got details from the American intelligence, everything which is through the law, because he doesn't have all the rights until he's not in White House. So I think he's learning the situation now. It's good that he's learning. I know that there are some moments about it. I heard about it. And I think that we need to prepare for some meetings before we will find some common understanding of the situation.
The American media have reported some of the potential scenarios that the future president might consider. Can I just go through a couple of them and see what you think? So one is that the US would continue with military aid. Ukraine would be involved in ceasefire and peace talks, but plans to join NATO would be shelved for a long period of time. Now, what do you think of that little plan?
First of all, what is important? In media, there will be a lot of different plans. And between us, I want to be very honest with you and open. I don't know what is true and what is not true, where it comes from what circles around one president or another president, where from it is going. I know my attitude. Any decisions can't be done without us. That is the first, because it's understandable why I don't want to go deeply further to this, because it will not work. You can't make decisions without Ukrainian people. So, as I said, that the most important that the war, it's a tragedy, but it's true that war is here. We know who is Putin. We know our enemy. We know that he will not stop. And if we want to stop and have a just peace, and and better than everybody, we understand how it's difficult to get peace because of the Putin. It's very difficult because he doesn't want. For him, our independence, it's to lose this war. And we have to understand, and Trump has to understand, President Trump has to understand, and his team has to, even if somebody doesn't want to understand in Europe or the United States, everybody have to understand one thing. It's like 2 + 2. It's very simple, that he doesn't want our independence, because in this case, he's a loser. One of the part of the independence is security guarantees.
Yes.
NATO, as you said, yes, you are right. Without NATO, it's not real independence for Ukraine, because he will come back. When? I don't know. Look at his age. When? During close 10 years.
And you being part of NATO, is that vitally important too?
I think because we don't have alternative. We spoke about it with a lot of different leaders. I said, so we don't have nuclear weapon, and we gave it only in this context. We gave it because we had the biggest world leaders, countries who guaranteed security for Ukraine. And it doesn't work, and it didn't work, and we lost a lot of things. And now he wants to destroy us because we don't have this weapon. Yes, it's true. We have just to be, very open to reality. And that's why, what alternative, I said, Everybody thinks that alternative is only one for today, NATO. Maybe there is other alternative. I don't know. I never saw, I never heard about it. I never heard propositions. For today, I have security guarantees, bilateral. I did it already, without a United States, without bilaterally, with each leader, including United States. I mean, but without big umbrella of somebody. Yes, we just did on our bilateral relations. We did it with the United States, UK, EU leaders, a lot of different countries, some of not EU and NATO leaders, like Japan, for example, where there is written weapon support, I mean military support, humanitarian, economic, yes, but it's not NATO. This is not the same. We have already not the same security guarantees. So that's why I think that the leaders have to stop these first pages of newspaper, their political messages, stop to speak that maybe there is some alternative kind of security guarantee. We had Budapest Memorandum, doesn't work. We have bilateral security guarantees. It worked, helping us to be strong, but it doesn't stop Putin.
Okay.
That's why we need something which will stop Putin, which will be preventively stop Putin. What it can be, you know, I don't know. Maybe there is something, I don't know.
Well, one alternative, perhaps, again, this is reported from the United States, and it's fairly simple, really, is that Ukraine joins NATO, but Russia takes control and keeps the land that it has to date. Would that be a possibility?
Ніхто не пропонував нам бути в НАТО.
No one has offered us to be in NATO with just one part or another part of Ukraine.
Щоб закінчити гарячу стадію.
That's for once.
Факт.
The fact is that it is a solution to stop the hot stage of the war, because we can just give the NATO membership to the part of Ukraine that is under our control.
Факт. Можна було б, ніхто не пропонував.
Yes, it could be possible, but no one offered.
Треба робити.
But the invitation must be given to Ukraine within its internationally recognized border.
Ви не можете давати тільки частині.
You can't give invitation to just one part of a country. Why? Because thus you would recognize that Ukraine is only that territory of Ukraine and the other one is Russia.
Тому я і сказав, юридично ми не маємо права
So
визнавати
legally, by law, we have no right to recognize the occupied territory as territory of Russia.
І тут не можна помилятись в цьому.
And here
Але
we must not
якщо ми
make any
хочемо
mistake.
зупинити гарячу стадію війни,
But if we
треба
want to stop
взяти
the hot
під
stage of the
НАТО
war,
зонтик, амбрелу,
we should take under
парасольку, під
NATO
НАТО
umbrella
парасольку, ту
the
частину
territory of
України, яку ми
Ukraine
контролюємо.
that we
Раз,
have under
треба
our
це зробити
control.
швидко. А далі вже
That's what we need to do fast.
інші території
And then Ukraine can
Україна
get back the
може
other part of its
повертати
territory
дипломатично.
diplomatically.
Ось що я сказав, що таку пропозицію
So, and this
Україна
proposal has
ніколи
never
не
been considered by
розглядала,
Ukraine
тому що
because
ніхто
no one has ever
офіційно
offered that to
нам
us
цього
officially.
не запропонував.
We can't, by law, recognize our territory, Ukrainian territory, under occupation of Russia as Russian. That is impossible. That is against the constitution of Ukraine.
Конституції України.
I understand completely your position. It is interesting, though, because it seems to me you have moved to a point that if you could get your NATO membership, you would have accept that we could be moving into a ceasefire and potential talks, peace talks. And at some point in the future, you would consider diplomatically how to get your land back. That's quite a big step, because you're never going to accept that it's Russia's, but as you say, physically, they will hold it. But it could bring the war to a close.
A lot of different countries proposed a ceasefire. So the question is, ceasefire where? That is the question. The second point is, if we speak ceasefire, guarantees that Putin will not come back. And in this case, I commented you about NATO. Yes, NATO immediately the part of Ukraine. And we need it very much. Otherwise, he will come back. Otherwise, how we can go to ceasefire? So it's very, for us, it's very dangerous. That's what I mean.
Can I just ask you this then? We're in this phase of the war that we're in. I think we've agreed it's dangerous and nasty. Firstly, can you tell me, the use of the long-range weapons, which has been, Putin is angry about it, as I think we expected. It took a long time for President Biden to agree to it. Are they being effective now? Are they worth all the arguing that's taking place? In the future, do you want to be able to fire those long-range weapons at any target you so choose?
It's the same like to speak about air defense. Is Patriot effective? Yes. Is it enough to defend all the energy systems? No. Is it okay in some places of our country where Patriot works? Is everything okay with energy? Mostly yes. So, but what you need? We need more. Do you have a very concrete number of Patriots you need? Yes. Do you have in Europe, even in Europe, enough systems to equip? Yes. What we need, political will from our partners. The second discussion was about F-16. It was the same, like with Patriots, not to give Ukraine because it meant to involve NATO countries to the war. The same was with Patriots, the same was with HIMARS, the same was with F-16. And the decision was positive, again, the same late, very lately. But how F-16 for today work? Very good. Excellent, mostly. We have a very little number of F-16. What they do now, destroyed 7 ballistic 2 nights ago. 7 missiles which went on the infrastructure, civilian infrastructure. Missiles. Yeah.
Cruise missiles.
Cruise missiles. Yeah. So they destroyed it? Yes. But do we need the fleet which completes 128? Yes, we don't have it. And what about our partners? Do they have? Yes, a lot. United States, they have? Yes, a lot. Can they give? Yes. Why they didn't give? I don't know. The third point, long-distance weapon. We needed very much long-distance weapon at the very beginning when Russia wanted very much to begin offensive. It was counteroffensive from their side. Yes, about 1 year ago, we asked very much to give us, because we see them how they are, how they grouped, and we need to use this. And they grouped very openly because they know that we don't have capabilities to destroy them. We lost people, territories, initiative in some moment before this decision. So is it a good decision? Yes. Is it late? Very late. And again, is it enough? Not of course. Not of course. Again, we have the targets, only military targets, on the territory of Russia and on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, where the distance is very big, and we know how many missiles we need, how many long-distance systems we need. Everything is already was accepted, everything and written in the victory plan, how to strengthen Ukraine before, again, any kind of negotiations. Did our partners give us? No. Why? I don't know. But we are thankful, Biden, Starmer, Macron, we are thankful for those decisions that have been done. Even not enough, but it's been done. So,
but as we stand now, there are battlefield losses. The east is proving very difficult. You don't have enough soldiers.
Yes.
Your own soldiers have told me there aren't enough soldiers. Is there anything that could be given by NATO or the United States to help with that problem, the lack of soldiers? Are there weapon systems that, if you had, you need less soldiers?
Yes. Yes.
What
Just equip the brigades. When you have soldiers, we need to equip this brigade. Otherwise, you will take the soldiers and move to the brigades, to other brigades, just to equip other brigades which are standing. So you will not have reserves. You will never have enough reserves, because it doesn't matter that they are, I mean, without anything. They are staying. Somebody asked me, I don't want to tell you the position of some leaders in Europe about mobilization and etc., that you need younger and etc. And I said, what do you want? Just you want to die without your weapon? How you want me just to mobilize young guys and said that they don't know where to go, in which brigade, with which weapon that they will fight? A lot of them want, but it's, you know, it's just, you know, something not відповідальний, not responsible cases, just to speak about it.
Yes, because we're talking about bringing down the age of the
a lot
draft
of people
18.
will talk, because, you know, if you have the problem, it's with politics, it's always like this. If you have the problem, how to close this gap, how to close this problem, just, you know, you have to create the new problem. So they speak about mobilization, but the real problem with 10 brigades, which our partners didn't equip. I asked them very much, more than 1 year ago, that we need to equip these brigades. We made this solution with United States and with European allies, and for today, totally Europe and the United States totally now equipping 2.5 brigades.
Okay.
For today.
So have they abandoned you then? Why aren't they giving you more weapons?
I don't have, I mean, this is their decision. There are some bureaucracy, some decisions, some they don't think that this is the priority, and etc. It's always the same way during this war. But we are thankful for, at least for those things which they gave. I mean, this anyway, this is big support, big support. But anyway, East depends on number of equipped brigades. When you speak about the control situation on the east of Ukraine, it depends only on one thing for today, on these brigades. I'm not speaking about that nobody from admirals, generals, from EU and United States, nobody fought in such war, and nobody of them fought without jets. They always say they can't understand how we fight. They really say, we understand that you can't do real strong offensive missions without fleet, without sky. That's why they always, you know, why they always say you are very heroic soldiers, and etc. One of the reasons they understand that Russia has fleet, you don't have it. Russia have air defense, S-400, S-300, you don't have enough. You only defend energy systems or water supplies and some cities, some ports, and etc. You need it. You have less number of these systems. And that's why they say you are heroic soldiers, because we can't understand how they fight. Not equipped, I mean, how they need to be, and without the sky. So for the East, for today, of course, air defense. Against these aerial bombs and etc. Of course, air defense, and of course, some equipped brigades. But we will do it.
But that is a big failure, because, you accept there's only so many men you can have, because there's a limit. But the real failure then is the lack of weapons being sent to Ukraine.
У нас обмежена кількість.
Limited number of soldiers. Well, I believe we have a lot of soldiers, but the limitation is that, frankly, we must save as many lives as possible. And if in European or American offices there is an idea that we need to do something differently about the draft age, I want to just ask our partners to do their part of the job, and we will deal with our part of the job.
Is there a potential, anything that you could say to Russia that would, or anything Russia could say to you that was an acceptable peace deal? And would you be prepared to negotiate and talk to President Putin?
He's not ready. He doesn't want to stop the war. It doesn't mean, I mean, this, for him politically it's very good to speak. It's like with the chancellor, or with some European leader, or with some leaders from Global South, maybe some future talks with President Trump. It's very good for him just to show his society that he is not politically isolated. He is not terrorist. You see, a lot of people speak with him. For him, this is important. That's why I'm sure that he's ready for dialogue with some leaders, including Ukraine. Yes, but to talk just for talk, just for ambitions of Putin, no, I think it's not smart. So we need to be in the position of strong position, and if we will be in strong position, he will hear us. Otherwise, he will just speak. Yes, and this is the first, and to have the steps. This is the second, and the third point: where to speak, on which line. On which line we have to speak. So if he is on the line of full-scale invasion, it's understandable for me. So it means that he understands that he's isolated, that it's a tragedy mistake, like some Global South leaders said, that it's his fatal mistake to begin full-scale war. Even there are some skeptical leaders who never speak about his invasion, occupation, illegal occupation of 2014. They are trying not to speak about it, but they, all of them say that his foolish mistake was the full-scale war against Ukraine. So Putin has to understand it. Putin has to recognize it.
I was recently in the Sumy region, and I was talking to one of your soldiers, a commander actually, and he said he pointed out to me, he said it feels like Russia's allies, be it Iran, North Korea, China, are fairly united in support of Russia, but Ukraine's allies appear to be falling apart. Do you feel that as well? I mean, that is a soldier saying.
No. I think it's not a real situation. Our allies more in unity than his allies, really. We understand that what he has allies, North Korean allies, the most strong for today, I think, Iran and North Korea. Iran gave him weapons and licenses for new military plants. It's understandable that they are allies, and they have some position in Middle East, in Syria, and etc., some common interests in the world. Yes, and North Korea is the new page of this war, that 12,000 of soldiers of North Korean army already against us. So these are his real allies. And in China, so China is, you know, sometimes you don't demonstrate that you are not ally. So sometimes even it's, you know, you don't need to hear that I'm not ally of this terrorist. Some you don't need, you just see what they do. They don't demonstrate that they are not allies. They have a lot of decisions bilateral. They have a lot of solutions. They gave a lot of details for some drones and etc. for Russia, but they didn't give them weapon. This is the difference between China and Iran, China and North Korea. This is the difference. But they are more close to them than not.
Can I ask you this? There's some discussion, Donald Tusk, Poland's Prime Minister, said we're in a pre-war era. The former head of Britain's spy service says that we're already in a real war. Are we in the beginnings, or are we in a world war being fought through Ukraine?
Yeah. And our partners have to recognize it. Ми всі винні.
We all are in a war, and Europe, I believe, is already in a war.
Це просто зараз є історичний.
And now we've got a historic chance, a strong Ukraine as a historic chance for Europe not to be in a real war with the Russian Federation.
Що Європа не буде роздрібнена перед тим, як
That Europe will not be split before Russia hits one of the NATO countries. That will happen.
Питання в тому, що
The question is only whether he dares to do that or not depends only on Ukraine. I'm sure the war will stop. He has no strength to continue the war.
У нього немає на це сил.
And I think, honestly, the whole world does not either.
У світу, чесно, також. Світ може дати набагато більше і бути
The world can give much more and be much stronger than Russia, but we don't see that happening in reality.
реально. І тут буде
The
питання,
question is how this war is going to end. We'll see.
Я б дуже хотів би, щоб
But I would like Trump to succeed. The Congress, the parties are also important there. And I wish America of the times of Donald Trump to succeed.
Тому я б так сказав, у Америки часу Дональда Трампа вийшло.
And I want them to play one of the most crucial parts.
Свою одну з головних.
And if at the end of the war Ukraine does not lose,
Якщо ця війна буде виглядати так, що Україна
that would mean that the democracy didn't lose and that freedom didn't lose. And in this case, I think that Putin would not invade Europe and would not attack NATO countries.
вторгнеться в Європу і не завдасть ударів по країнам НАТО. Якщо ж
And if the US and Europe insist together that Ukraine in this war looks like a country forced to peace, that would be unfair. We want peace, but that would be unfair.
виглядала примушеною до миру,
And that would give more strength to Putin and believe that it is a chance to quickly get back the NATO countries that had always been under the control of the Soviet Union.
що це саме той час, коли можна дуже швидко, по-перше, повернути.
And they believe that these countries also belong to their heritage still. And I believe much is going to be decided this year.
Радянського часу, і вони вважають до сих пір це їх насліддя або спадщина. Тому я думаю, що буде багато чого вирішуватися саме в цьому році.
Ukraine has suffered an awful lot. Families have lost family members in huge numbers. Does Ukraine, do you feel that we're at a point whereby we've done all of this and it could be for nothing?
Це неправда.
No, this is wrong. This is a really sensitive point, but this is wrong.
Наші люди не віддали.
No, our people did not give their lives for nothing. Our people gave their lives for the lives of their children and grandchildren and for the lives of all Ukrainians today. And these people performed not only their personal, but also constitutional duty to defend their country.
Захищати
And this is more than the constitution.
ніж конституційний обов'язок.
This is their choice to fight for Ukraine to
Це
exist.
боротьба за те, щоб Україна існувала. Я вважаю, що вони, ці люди, яких з нами немає,
I believe that these people who are no longer with us, they already have prevailed.
але
Putin has not realized it yet, but Ukrainians have already won.
вони все
And Ukrainians who are no longer with us, they put everything they had at stake,
вони вже
and they are already winners.
тому що якщо
Because if Ukrainians had not united back then, sacrificed their time, their life, their comfort, then Putin would have conquered the whole of Ukraine. That's a fact.
Путін би захопив
And no one would have helped us then. And after conquering the whole country, he would have destroyed us completely.
просто нас.
We would just turn into just another Belarus or just another part of the Russian Empire.
ще одна велика частина Російської імперії.
You've given yourself your life. You've dedicated to this. It's affected your family and sure. How has it been for you personally, if I may ask? It must be quite tough being the president of a country at war against a huge neighbour.
I think the same like with all the families. We lost a lot, but we found more. We found ourselves. I think we found our identity. We know who we are 100%. We know who are Russians 100%. We are, I think, very. So I'm very pleased that I'm the president of the Ukraine, and I'm honorable that I'm the president of Ukrainian people. And my family the same, so all my family here, and we are together. And we've been always together, but we never be such, close to each other. Even that we have the distance between us, even that we can't see each other each moment, each day, but we are very close.
When do you think this war will end?
We can do everything that we will do everything to end this war, to do everything, to do this, this, how to say, possibilities this year, to end this war this year. I think now we have
next year, in the coming year,
in 2025, we can do it, but together with Europe, with the United States, of course with Ukraine, like a part of this, like the main part of this deal. Yes, and I'm sure it can be. Big pressure on Russia from Trump and the EU, big pressure on Russia, on Putin, strengthening Ukraine, and then diplomacy. It can be quick. It can be quick. Yes, but it depends on the will. I think it depends on will, who really wants to understand that it's not simple. It's just simple just to say yes tomorrow. No, it will not be like tomorrow. But it will not be simple. But it can be in the coming year. It can be. I feel it. But it depends on decisions and on the will of some other leaders.
And Chief Correspondent Stuart Ramsay joins me now, live from Kyiv. Stuart, what could potentially come out of President Zelensky's suggestion we heard in your interview there?
Well, it's really interesting because he's keen to point out, and his office have been talking to us this evening saying, and they're keen to point out, that no offer to him has been made for joining NATO. But basically, he has laid out a plan for some type of peace here, and as he said in the interview, next year potentially. I think what they've reached a conclusion, it's as simple as this really, is that while land is important, and in the past they've always said they want Russia out of all their land and they're going to push them out, but I think they've reached a conclusion they're losing so many men and there's so much damage has been caused to the country that the land becomes less important than actually the survival of the country and, more importantly again, the survival of the people. And I think that's really the message they're trying to take out, and it's a position they've had to rethink, and they're now appealing, I suppose, to the international community, but particularly to President Trump when he takes over, that this may be the way forward.
Well, let's thank you very much, Stuart. We'll go live to Moscow now, and Ivor Bennett, our correspondent there. And Ivor, how is President Putin likely to react to what President Zelenskyy is suggesting about conditions for a possible potential ceasefire?
Well, I think Vladimir Putin, to put it bluntly, will be a happy man tonight following this interview, because for months he's been locked in a standoff with Volodymyr Zelenskyy over how this war ends. Moscow has always insisted it gets to keep the land it occupies and more. Ukraine has always demanded that Moscow hands it back. But for the first time tonight, it appears one of them has shown a willingness to give ground, and it's not Vladimir Putin. For him, that represents a very important psychological victory. His opponent is the one who blinked first, and for someone who never likes to show any weakness, never back down, that will mean a lot. And what's more, it gives him something to sell to the Russian people. You can see how it will be spun. The message will be that Ukraine backed down in the face of Russian superiority. Now, on the issue of NATO membership, however, their positions are still incompatible. Vladimir Putin insists that idea must be abandoned completely. But the question now is that since Ukraine has moved first and shown a willingness to compromise, will Russia follow suit? And what's been fascinating has been listening to Vladimir Putin's language and tone when talking about Donald Trump in recent weeks. Only yesterday, he described him as intelligent, experienced. He said he would find the solution to the Ukraine war. Now, to me, that sounds like someone who wants to win his favour, get in his good books. So it seems like both sides know that peace talks are the only way this war is going to end, but they seem to be coming at them from different angles, one from a position of weakness, the other from a position of strength.
Ivor, thanks very much to our international correspondent Diana Magnay, who's in Washington, D.C. for us tonight. And Diana, what might the Trump transition team take from this interview tonight?
Well, I think what will be quite interesting for them is to see the degree of faith that Volodymyr Zelenskyy seems to be placing in Donald Trump's ability to actually achieve or change something of the status quo in the coming year. And perhaps that's because of the talk, certainly from the man he's nominated to be his special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, that the US will follow a policy of strength and of peace and deterrence through strength. And you heard Zelenskyy saying there, you know, if the US shows themselves to be strong, then other countries can follow suit. And I think they'll be looking very closely at what he had to say about security guarantees, because clearly that is what Ukraine is most concerned about if they do actually end up talking to Vladimir Putin. And that will have to be from a position of strength. First of all, we heard him say there, is that they need very strong security guarantees if there is a sensation of hostilities to ensure that he doesn't just waltz back in when he has regrouped and feels, you know, strong enough to continue. And what we've heard from Keith Kellogg, the nominee for Special Envoy, is that the US would be prepared to make a strong security architecture on a bilateral basis. How strong will that be? It will have to be a lot stronger than what Joe Biden has promised so far. And Zelenskyy is clearly saying, you know, the only real strength that I believe in is the NATO umbrella, and they'll have to meet somewhere in between. But deterrence depends on whether Vladimir Putin believes that Donald Trump means it. And given all the talk about Trump possibly removing himself from NATO or degrading NATO, and really that Ukraine isn't his primary foreign policy interest, you know, those are questions. Will Vladimir Putin believe it, whatever retired General Kellogg says, that the Republican Party, that Donald Trump is prepared to put his money where his mouth is and show himself to be strong in Ukraine's defence if it comes to it?
Diana, thank you. Well, with me in the studio now, our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn. Dominic, how much of a shift is this in terms of what we're hearing from President Zelenskyy? I
think it's a big shift in terms of tone and language. It was a fascinating interview. It was very honest, very sincere, very human. I think this is a wartime president talking to a war correspondent. There was a kind of understanding between him and Stuart. And I think he was speaking very frankly because of that. And he was very frustrated, talking passionately, really, about how he's not getting enough Patriots, not enough F-16 jets, saying he has made it very clear that Ukraine must be strengthened before negotiations, and saying that his partners, Ukraine's partners, are not doing enough for that to happen. And there was, I think, a sense of frustration. You know, Stuart said to him, "Do you feel abandoned?" He didn't say no. He did not deny that he felt abandoned. He didn't say he was, but he didn't deny it. So he's talking about negotiations. I think he's accepting there is an inevitability to do with the negotiations, partly because he's not doing well in the war, but obviously partly, or mostly, because Donald Trump is going to make these negotiations happen. But it's absolutely crystal clear that he has to have more strength before he goes into those negotiations. What the Ukrainians cannot have is a deal that gives land to the Russians, gives them an ability to regroup and rearm and then see them come back yet again to take the rest of Ukraine. As he says, Putin does not see Ukraine as separate from Russia. He regards them effectively as rebellious Russians who must be dealt with. And therefore, it's absolutely, emphatic, his demand that he has more strength before he goes into the negotiations. But a year and a half ago, he was talking to Kay Burley about he didn't see any point in sitting down and talking with nobody Putin, as he called him. He's now accepting there is an inevitability about having to talk to him, and he's trying to prepare his country and his leadership for going into those negotiations. But I think he's clearly worried and is clearly very frustrated at the moment about the amount of support he's getting from partners and allies ahead of going into these negotiations. I think it's a very revealing interview for all those reasons.
In answer to Stuart saying, would you ever feel that it's all been for nothing? He got sort of quite emotional, that it's never going to have been for nothing, that those people, the Ukrainians that have died, they've already won.
Yeah, we must remember that everyone thought that Ukraine was going to get invaded and defeated by Russia, and it's only because of the extraordinary courage and resilience of those Ukrainians who laid down their lives and made those sacrifices that didn't happen. But there is a danger, I think, that Russia could still prevail and do so through diplomacy and negotiations, not through warfare at the end of the day. That's his fear, I think, at least.
Dominic, thank you very much. Well, you've been watching a special edition of The World and our interview with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I'll be back shortly with the news at 10.